Welcome to the Olathe Spark Starters podcast, where it is our mission to inspire innovative ideas and empower educators to cannonball into personalized professional learning. We're your hosts, Jordan Billings, 7th grade social studies from Indian Trail Middle School,
and Ryan Stevens, 8th grade social studies at Summit Trail Middle School.
Our goal for this episode is to help listeners understand how you can make real-world connections in the classroom.
All right, and we are here with Ashley Umphrey. Ashley, will you introduce yourself for everybody?
Absolutely. My name is Ashley Umphrey, and I teach 6th grade social studies at Chisholm Trail. And this is my 14th year of teaching.
Awesome.
And 10 years at the 6th grade level.
Nice.
Oh, awesome. So, why are real-world connections so important for our students?
I mean, I think no matter what content area you teach, trying to connect what you teach to the real world and making it relevant and applicable to kids is really important. So for me, being a history teacher, that for me, like, civic engagement and motivating kids to want to make a difference in the world they live in and be active and informed are my goals. And I think that can really apply to anybody.
Oh, yeah.
You know, wanting your kids, no matter what content area you teach, to want to know how to use that content and how to, better themselves with that. So that's kind of one of the main reasons that I think it's important. In social studies, I do, try really hard to think okay, we're learning about the past, but connecting the then and now and, what's stayed the same and what's changed, and helping them kind of see those kind of connections there. Something else that I think is really important when making real world connections is trying to make it relevant. And relevance is basically why is this worth knowing? Why is this, why should I be interested in this? And so trying to find a way to make those connections so that kids feel like they want to invest the time in what you're going to teach them. And so I like to ask a compelling question with my lesson, something that's going to really captivate them and make them want to feel like, I really want to know more. This is intriguing to me, something that kind of sparks their interest.
A hook.
Exactly.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that we always want to be able to answer the question of why do I need to know this, or when am I going to use this, and have that kind of answer for the kids, or let them discover it on their own. So how do you bring that into the classroom?
So there's so many ways. I mean, I always start off kind of asking myself, all right, how am I going to make this relevant for the kids? And how am I going to make this meaningful, not just in history, but in their own lives? And so there's lots of ways that I like to do that. Sometimes even just engaging with them emotionally. So, we talk a lot about, social emotional learning, but I really think there's so much truth to that, because if you don't have great relationships, then the kids aren't going to want to care about what you have to teach. So, something that I feel like I really invest a lot of time in, and I know a lot of other teachers do too, is you're really getting to know my kids and, what their interests are. And so I can make those kind of connections and parallels and things like that. But then carving out time to share, all right, this was hard for me when I was a kid, or I'm going to be asking you to do some really hard things, but we're going to grow. And how are we going to learn from our failures? And so connecting on an emotional level, I think really helps me sort of get that buy-in from kids.
Yeah.
I guess when I'm thinking kind of more just basics. So something that I want to do a couple years ago was to stretch myself to, I wanted more, feel like I could bring the outside in to my classroom.
Wow.
And so in 6th grade social studies, we study ancient history. And so sometimes that can be a challenge because you are, thousands of years removed from this history. So something that I've done is try to get in contact with people who are experts in that field. And we've Skyped with different people from around the world. Also studying ancient history, sometimes I like to take the past event and figure out what's going on there currently. So if we might be studying a river, and then now we're looking at, what's the life like around this river today? And so currently right now we're focusing on the pollution of the Ganges River.
Oh, okay.
And so a couple years ago we Skyped with environmental activists who fight legislation to try to shut down some of the tanneries that are polluting the water. And so our kids got to have, face-to-face interaction. And we talked about how we created our own primary source because we interviewed somebody who lives there in that and sees that industry. And so then we were able to, fancy social studies where I corroborate that with other sources.
Okay.
And really, it just made it, they were just so invested in getting to do that. Simple things like I love Nearpod. Nearpod has really cool, just simple, like 360 VR tours, just of multiple places around the world. Those are awesome. And I have been fortunate to get to travel to some of the places that I teach.
Oh, wow.
So I've been to ancient Rome, or not ancient Rome. I've been to Rome.
Yeah. Okay.
Seen the ancient ruins. Okay.
We were going to be very impressed if you had been to ancient Rome.
And we might be requesting the use of the time machine.
Yes, exactly.
Time travel is kind of a thing in my class, but that's for another day. So I've been to Rome, I've been to Greece, and the last time that I was in Rome, I decided I was going to videotape myself teaching there. So I took the GoPro and selfie mode and hooked it on the bike and gave them a bike tour around the city and took them through the Forum and inside the Colosseum. And, it was just kind of cool for them to see, try to take them there. Ultimately, it would be my dream one day is to take middle schoolers with a tour agency that I've traveled with before overseas.
Oh, wow.
And really bring it to life that way.
Wow. So I have to ask, as you're doing the GoPro videos and whatever, did you have any surprise guest stars and whatever? Like people
absolutely.
Come. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Did you leave them in for the students to see?
Absolutely. That's great. Yeah.
I love that.
Why not, right? And I tell them, I'm willing to make a complete fool out of myself to get the right footage for you. So I don't care if I have to butt in front of other people, to get the right shot. I'm going to.
And see, that's awesome because I think again, you talk about creating buy-in and whatever, and kids see that. And there's an authenticity that goes along with that. And this is I know I've tried to do kind of instructional videos and whatnot. I know how difficult those can be. So I've never done anything on site. So impressed.
Yeah. Or even in a museum. I was in a museum in Germany and I found this. We studied this ancient ice mummy. It's like this old ice mummy that died. And I took them through the museum and all the different components because I knew I couldn't really bring them there. So in my video, I'm like, guys, this is as close as I can get you, right? Through.
But it's still you doing it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's kind of fun.
So you've kind of talked about this a little bit, but what are some of the technology tools that you're using to bring the outside into your classroom?
Yeah. So I mentioned Skype and Nearpod. Something else that's just very simple is just using Google Earth. At middle school, all kids have an iPad. So, whenever we're studying an ancient place, I'm like, let's take a look at it now. We're talking about the geography. I'm like, all right, let's see. Is there still fertile land around this river? What's the, what do we think is, I don't even know, some of the consequences for people living here. What do their living conditions look like? And making some of those kind of connections is just simply using Google Earth. What else? One of my goals is I'm wanting to apply for a grant for some VR headsets. Something really cool. That's in the works. Something I'd like to kind of stretch myself to do. I think giving kids choice in projects is also really helpful. Yeah. When we're learning something, and letting them kind of choose sometimes they might choose how they want to answer a question with different media. And so learning all kinds of different types of technology or kids are artistic, whatever they want, they feel more invested when they can play to their strengths when it comes to that kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. You definitely want to kind of bring that sense of buy-in just from the fact that I'm confident in this skill that I have. I can use that in this way. And it also helps them just see that your skills translate into so many different things.
Yeah.
So you've talked about some major stuff, some big things, travel, Skype, and all that. But if somebody wants to make those real-world connections to their content, what's kind of a baby step that they can take to get started on this?
I think really just asking just take a step back and just asking yourself, all right, how can I make this meaningful and relevant? And it might just be simple, something guys, I know this skill is hard and, it might not be a lot of fun, but I promise you, you're going to grow and you're going to be able to use this in science or language arts or across different classes. So I think helping them know that sometimes, or the skills that we're doing are going to pay off in the long run. Quite honestly, sometimes I think at the 6th grade level, I can kind of amp things up a little bit and say, you're going to get so good at this now. It's going to be so easy by the time you get to this grade or this grade. You're already, so we're training ourselves, prepping ahead of time. But really just asking yourselves, how can I make this meaningful and relevant? Why should the kids care about this topic? how can I connect that to their lives? Or even, again, pulling in emotion, talking about, the struggles that people of the past have been through and what struggles we go through today, and finding like what we have in common with people of the past. And I think too, we're building those emotional connections with our student. We can make something emotional with history or any content area. It really sticks with you, really.
Oh yeah, and I would agree. I mean, when you thinking about how it doesn't even matter like what the content is. Sometimes it's even just the attempt of doing that. Sometimes it's even just kids watch you making an effort to know them better and try to get into their world. Sometimes it may sound like they're kind of complaining about it, or if we ask them to do like a history TikTok or something like that, to be like, oh, but at the same time, they kind of have that little voice in the back of their head going like, oh, they're actually like, they're kind of listening to what's in my world, and they're trying that. And again, it kind of gets, back into that buy-in, I think. So,
absolutely.
So do you have a favorite book, blog, or podcast, some type of resource, so that if I wanted to learn more about incorporating real world connections to my students, what could I use?
So there is a podcast that I love. It's called The 10-Minute Teacher.
Oh, me too.
It's so great. It's all of it 10 minutes, so easy, with Vicki Davis. And I feel like there's always something I take away from that. And so you can search real world connections specifically, but I don't know. I just feel like every time I walk away with something that I can take back and apply right away to my classroom. So that's a great one. I have a fantastic source. It's a hyperdoc that I don't know if there's a way in like a notes section of the podcast that people can access.
We should look at that. Okay, yeah, I think we do. Okay,
so it's a link, and on this link, it's created by, it's about civic engagement. So, if we're wanting kids to make connections to the real world, we want them to be able to be active participants in our real world, no matter what our content area is, that they know, how to make meaning of information, how to make a difference in our world. So it's a civic engagement basically a document with links of 10 different strategies to help your students become civically engaged, but really would work across any content area, even though it's kind of focused on social studies. But inside of there are links to different articles on between like incorporating your own passions into the classroom, getting kids involved outside in community work. It's just incredible. And so anyway, there's a lot of different things that I kind of refer back to, even just best practice on there that are great. And then I love, for anyone out there who's history, c3teachers.org is a fantastic website where, it's about inquiry, and inquiry is, about building on your curiosity, and is a easy way to grab kids and make make learning meaningful. And, grabbing a compelling question, can words lead to war? And suddenly kids are thinking, that girl next to me just said some words and I want to start a war.
It has begun.
Right?
Yes.
So anyway, there's just so many great lessons there that are already done, but, we're working, even on creating our own. And so that's another great resource too.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I guess I have a new podcast to add to my playlist now.
You do. Check it out.
Absolutely. So, all right. So if listeners want to learn more from you, where can they find you online?
Well, you can find me on Twitter at Ashley Humphrey. I'll be honest, I'm not the greatest on Twitter. I don't post it enough. That's an area of growth for me. I follow a lot of people. I'm just so much more comfortable talking with people in person, and I feel like I don't have to worry about oh my gosh, how many characters have I said? Like I can just spill my excitement in person.
Oh, awesome.
Anyway, but yeah.
Okay. Is there somebody in the district that has been a spark starter for you that you would like to shout out to?
Yeah, he's sitting right here, Ryan.
Oh, I'm honored.
Ryan's my spark starter, absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was like last year, just at like one of those ed camp type things where you're talking about gamification. I know, Jordan, you are also really big into gamifying your classroom. Was just so exciting. And being 10 years into teaching 6th grade curriculum, I thought this is a great way to really elevate what I'm doing. So, Ryan, your excitement is contagious, and it really made me explore gamification more, and it's been a great year. So, shout out.
And I'm going to echo that shout out pretty shoutfully, I guess. So,
well, hey, I appreciate that. I mean, I'm always inspired by you guys and what you're doing in your games too. I think we can always learn from each other, but boy, we could go down the rabbit hole of gamification.
Yeah.
Get into a lot of danger here.
That sounds like another episode, maybe. So, excellent. So, all right. Well, Ashley, thank you for coming on. So
Thanks.
Great to have you. And I'm Jordan Billings, 7th grade social studies, Indian Trail Middle School.
I'm Ryan Stevens, 8th grade social studies at Summit Trail Middle School. As always, check out the most recent aim to nominate a Spark starter. There's a tab and a form to fill out where you can nominate somebody who's sparking innovation around you so that they can be recognized in the district. Until next time, keep sparking innovation.